So, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, we have gotten some news, some little tidbits from interviews here or there to give us a bit of a picture on what we can expect. It's nothing too big, but it's something to go off and to talk about, and that is exactly what we are going to do in today's video. I'm excited for this final part of this remake trilogy, and I will look at any excuse to talk about it, so I'm hoping you can join me today for this one. So with that all being said, what is up guys, Jen here, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. I've got you covered with timestamps because there's going to be a couple of subjects we're going to be going over. So if you want to skip to that for your convenience, feel free to do that. All I ask is you to support the channel, hit that like button, and if you want to stick around for some more Final Fantasy content, you are already in the right place. Just hit that subscribe button. So, where do we begin with this news? Well, I think it's probably best to talk about where it is at in its development. From various interviews, we can see that the main framework of the game has been done and that it is in a playable state from beginning to end. And we can assume that all that needs to be done is all of the other bells and whistles, music, voice acting, camera work, and everything else in between. But the fact that the game is playable from beginning to end is always great to hear, and we can use this as a basis on when we could expect to see this game. I think we're all in the same boat when it comes to where we would like it to release. I think it's very fitting for its 30th anniversary of its Japanese release in 2027, the beginning of 2027. It'll bring the project full circle and would be nice, but I would not want them for 1 second to rush it to get it out for this date, though they have learned so much from making Remake and Rebirth. They have so many assets, they already have the story and everything else close to being set in stone, so I would assume that it's not a grand task to aim for that date. This just gets me very excited because we're going to start to hear about things. Various interviews, Naoki Hamaguchi has said we can expect to hear news soon. So that leads us on to our next topic at hand. When will we hear something? I have been a massive advocate of we're going to hear about it at the Game Awards, and I'm still sticking to those guns, and I can see a lot of people starting to become part of that train now of where we're going to at least get the title reveal and the first tease. The way I can see it happening now is very similar to what I thought was going to happen before they gave us a release date for Final Fantasy VII Remake on the Switch 2 and Xbox. Is we're going to get a final trailer for Final Fantasy VII Remake for Switch 2 and Xbox to bring the hype. Jeff is probably going to get everyone excited saying, oh, we've got some Final Fantasy news, and everyone's going to think, hey, it's part 3, it's time. And we're going to get duped out with the remake trailer, and we're going to be like, oh man, just disappointment kind of in the air because we were set up to think something and it didn't happen. And then, well, that's not all from the Final Fantasy VII Remake team or something like that. And maybe Hamaguchi comes out on stage or something along those lines, and then we get the trailer. That's the way I envision it. I think it fits quite nicely. It's a big stage and it just sets off things in motion if they are aiming, and we're assuming that they're aiming for the beginning of 2027. The end of this year gives us that year cycle of hype. We probably won't hear anything until later in 2026, but we definitely will start talking as soon as that reveal is set in motion. Of course, this is all speculation at the moment, but I think we've got little things to go off here and there. Next up comes from a question and a quote from Entau. Everything we talk about, I'll have links down below so you can read it for yourself. But Hamaguchi essentially says that moving forward to part 3, he doesn't want to deliver the exact same style of gameplay experience as Rebirth again, as what they did from Remake to Rebirth, from Rebirth to Return. They're going to evolve and change it to give it another different, fresh take on Final Fantasy VII's gameplay. Now, I've seen across the World Wide Web that a lot of people thinking that they're changing the combat system. I don't think this applies to the combat system whatsoever. That will forever get built upon. It was really good of an experience in Remake. They took it to a whole new level with synergies, with a bigger roster of characters, aerial combat, and more combinations of materia and Rebirth. You just evolve that combat even further. Give us loadouts. We've got 2 new characters to mess around with. I would like to see triple techs, like triple synergies, maybe dual limit breaks combining a Braver with a beat rush or something like that, as well as being able to switch characters in and out on the fly. Just evolve that experience even more. Maybe even give us underwater combat. I don't know. Just evolve what's already there, and I'm sure that's what we're going to get. I think the gameplay experience that Hamaguchi is referring to is the fact that Remake was very linear. We followed a select route, very Final Fantasy X, very Final Fantasy 13-esque exploration. There is corridors, I guess you could say, to then open areas to do a couple of quests, back to the corridors, a dungeon, story beat, etc, etc. Rebirth took it to a no level, gave us that same feeling, well it did anyway for me, of going out into the open world and just having everything to your disposal. And yes, it did follow a very checklist formula with the towers. I would like, and I'm going to say I would like instead of I would think, because I would like them to still keep that open worldness of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but scrap the checklists. Let's get the towers be destroyed within the Wutai Midgar War and the towers are no more. Just give us that exploration, that sense of discovery, but without any checklists. Let us just get lost and discover things naturally instead of opening up the menu and thinking, hey, I've got 10 things to find here. Give us the option to do that later, but make everything a bit more mysterious. You got to think about it. We've got different ways of exploration here. We're going to have the Highwind and we're going to have the submarine maybe, as well as a few other things. We've got more regions to return to, etc. So I think this is the gameplay experience they're referring to. They don't want to have this massive world of Final Fantasy VII and continue to have it with more checklists, because it will be very overwhelming. Rebirth didn't cover the whole world of Final Fantasy VII, and that was hours upon hours, hundreds of hours of gameplay to get that to 100% completion. But maybe there is a different way that they can tackle it, maybe learn from Ghost of Yotai, the way that they've adapted from Ghost of Tsushima. There's so many things they could do, and I'm very interested to hear your thoughts and opinions on that. Next up, we're going to stay on the track of this gameplay and move on to the keyword of the third part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. I'm going to call it Final Fantasy VII Return from now on, because that's what I believe it's going to be. And each game has come with a keyword, and it's not to get confused with the actual title of the game. Final Fantasy VII's Remake's keyword was reunion. We are reuniting. I guess we could look this as the aspect of both Cloud and us, the players, but it was reunion. We're reuniting with its characters and the world of Final Fantasy VII through Midgar. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was bonds, and this was developing the relationship of the characters. They had a key gameplay system within that, and that was just the bonds and different answers we can give to different scenarios, doing the side quests and building the bonds. And it was also through the combat as well, with the synergy attacks, and these get leveled up the more you spend with the characters. Again, another unique gameplay style, and they say that they have another keyword for Final Fantasy VII Return, but they're not quite ready to tell you what that is yet, and we don't know what that is, but I have a good feeling what it might be. And I'm going to piggyback off a good friend of mine over at Final Fan TV, the warrior of hype. He has done a excellent coverage of this keyword in particular. I will leave a link down below, and that keyword links to what we were just talking about with the gameplay experience. I used the word discovery. I really like this word. It's the first time I heard it through Final Fan TV, and the more I think about it, the more it just works, it clicks. Because we have the Highwind, we are taking to the skies. We can assume that we're going to have the submarine, and we're going to be able to go to the depths of the waters of Final Fantasy VII. And if we can scrap the towers and we can scrap the checklists, discovery is key. And it doesn't even stop there. We've got to look at the story of Final Fantasy VII. We know that two things are happening which are going to affect affect the way Discovery works. We have the war between Wutai and Midgar. The discovery of the world is going to be very different while that's in its midst and at its peak. We also have a planet-changing event of Meteor being summoned to the skies. Now, Rebirth focused on bonds, and I don't think that was just with the characters in the main cast. We met so many characters through side quests, whether it was looking with the old guy towards the Condor of Fort Condor, whether it was the Shinra middle manager and all of his antics, Kyrie. There was so many characters, and I've missed so many, but there was so many new names introduced, and the discovery of their thoughts and feelings of this world-changing event is going to be so interesting. How are they going to receive the end of the world? Because it's going to catch everyone off guard. We know what's coming because we've played the game. The characters are on this chase of Sephiroth, but all the inhabitants of the world do not have a clue about what's to go down. How are they going to react? How are we going to discover their thoughts and feelings towards the end of the world? And how is that going to affect our gameplay? Are we going to have more choices on how we have to interact with these characters? The sense of discovery of the world of Final Fantasy VII could be absolutely wild, and that isn't just to the heights of the sky and the depths of the sea. It is the level playing ground of the world. How is that going to be, and how are we going to choose to discover that, and what do we really want to take in from that? It's really interesting. There's some really nice new lovable characters that we met in Rebirth. How are they going to act when the Star of Doom is facing down at them up from the skies? It's going to be very interesting, and the more I think of Discovery, the more I feel like it fits in. If you don't think the keyword is discovery, let me know what you think the keyword might be. I think discovery of discovering new abilities within combat, discovery of certain NPCs that have gone into hiding, maybe parts of the world, like where is Kyrie? Where is she? Oh, we come across her very randomly. We could miss her in a whole playthrough if we didn't go somewhere. You know, some little things like that. That's what I want. I want to be able to replay this game many, many, many times, and discovery is that key. So we're going to move away from keywords, titles, gameplay, and everything. We're going to talk about multi-platform ever so briefly, because we seem to be getting very corporate speak when Hamaguchi has been asked about the multi-platform strategy. We know that we're getting Remake Part 3 on all platforms, but when it was asked specifically from the folks at Inverse, they asked if a multi-platform release is something that they're aiming for. Hamaguchi says, "We currently can't state exactly how it will be released, but I do wish to have as many players for Switch, Xbox, and PC included to be able to play the game on the desired platform. So we're going to be striving to make that happen in the best way possible." This is very obvious speak that maybe we're not getting all of the platforms on day one, or it could just be a curveball, and that's exactly what they're going. I think Square really want to push for it, and we all know as players and as fans that it's the best strategy, but I'm going to find some middle ground here. I don't think we're going to see it on Switch 2 and Xbox on release. I think they may have to wait 3 to 6 months, but I think that they are absolutely set on making sure that this at least releases both on PS5 and PC. I think that's a W. Even though you're not hitting all platforms, you're hitting 2 major platforms, because we know that there's a big crowd on PC, and if you can hit that day on date on both of those platforms, I think that's something that they could at least aim for, and that's what the minimum I am expecting this time around. So again, very interested to hear your thoughts on what you think they might be hitting. Now, last up, we're moving away from part 3. I've covered everything I want to talk about. Until we get that trailer, I'm going to continue to speculate and build some hype here or there. So please keep your eyes peeled for that kind of content if you're actually into. Again, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be notified of that content when it releases. But we're going to finish up talking about the Switch 2 version of Remake and Rebirth. Things seem to be going swimmingly. I guess it's okay to note that the third part coming out on Switch Switch 2 isn't affecting the development, and we're not going to see any compromises on what it could be when it comes to Part 3 when it's released on PS5 and PC, so there's no worries there. But we're specifically talking about the streamlined progression features that were introduced for the Switch 2 version and the Xbox version. Hamaguchi was asked via the Square Enix blog if this is something that's going to come to previous platforms, being the PS5 and PC. He says this is something that they're proactively considering to implement, which I thought that they would be. A lot of people were thinking, oh, they might leave it, and there's still a possibility that they might. This doesn't say that they will, but it's definitely on the board for them to achieve somewhere down the line. But what was even more interesting is that their main priority at the moment when it comes to Remake and Rebirth is Rebirth specifically bringing that lighting engine that the PC version got to the PS5. As someone that doesn't play on PC, I'm very excited to play through the game with this new lighting update because I've seen how much of a drastic change it was. We all can look back on Rebirth and think, okay, maybe the resolution was a little bit muddy, the lighting was off here and there, so seeing that that is a priority for them is really nice to see. And I think that's everything that I want to go over. If there's anything I've missed or something you want me to go over, please let me know. Like I said, we're going to start building some hype and speculation on the lead up to Final Fantasy VII Return as the days and weeks and months go on. I'm expecting the true journey to begin at the end of this year at the Game Awards, but we shall see if that comes to fruition. For now, I appreciate your time and I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, aka Final Fantasy VII Return, and I'll catch you on the flip side.